Hi everybody, it's Paul Harris with Global Recruiters of Blackhawk here in sunny California. How are you doing? I hope you're doing well. As you may know, I run an executive search firm that specializes in the wireless infrastructure space. And last week was the Super Bowl of trade shows, as I call it for me. It was WIA, Wireless Infrastructure Association, previously PCIA. It was in Orlando, Florida. If you were not able to make it, I want to in the next few minutes to kind of give you the bullet points, high-level bullet points of what happened. So if you weren't there, I'm hopefully going to make you feel like you were there. So anyways, Monday through Wednesday, May 22nd through 24th, obviously Monday started with the golf tournament, which I always sponsor at the golf tournament. And then that night was the perennial favorite, the WWLF, Women's Wireless Leadership Forum event, which is always an absolute ball, and they do a great job. Tuesday night was the Bill and Stacy DiAgostino put on their benefit concert for benefiting music movement with country and western superstar Josh Turner. He did a great job. It was a great show. And then, of course, Wednesday night was the gala, which is always a ball. So anyways, here I am talking about all the fun stuff. Let me get to the business. So obviously the basic themes were that things are going well in our wireless infrastructure world, as you know, right? The FirstNet deal with AT&T and their build out, the incentive auction, the T-Mobile doing all their builds, etc. So this is a very tower-focused trade show, and obviously the tower folks are in a good place right now, and they're doing very, very well. So it was a very, very positive meeting. A lot of talk about 5G, obviously, what the low latency, high throughput is going to be meaning to us all in the wireless industry, and then the standard, small cell DAS, tower builds, Wi-Fi, fiber, microwave, smart cities, IoT, the whole nine yards. So anyways, let me start off with the speech done by Jonathan Adelstein, obviously. So he obviously runs WIA. And he and his team working very, very closely with Ajit Pai, the FCC chairman, and others to remove the regulation impediments, right? Obviously, most of it to doing with small cell, right? That's kind of where the hiccup's been. And so they're working very closely together, and it's a good thing that Jonathan and his team are fighting for us. A lot of talk about if we need to do what we need to get done in this business, the number one thing that we can do is work with the spectrum reuse and densification. We all know that. Another keynote speaker was John Horn, who is the CEO of Ingenuine, and he talked about the biggest expense for any city in the United States. I didn't know the answer to this. Do you know what it is? The biggest expense for any city in the United States is their street lighting. So obviously smart cities and whatnot, trying to use the smart city platform, etc., to reduce that would be huge. Then he talked about their RPMA technology, RPMA technology that Ingenuine is using, and the fact that they can, this is crazy sounding stuff, but obviously they know what they're doing, and they're doing very well. I know people over there. The technology can cover 2,000 square miles with 17 towers. Wow, it's exciting stuff. Dan Caruso, the CEO from Zayo, was there, and he talked about their growth, and the key to their growth was the deep, dense fiber networks and data centers throughout the world. Michael Poth, who's the CEO for FirstNet, talked about the AT&T deal, talked about the $7 billion that the government gave him to help get things going. That was very interesting. Then I'm only going to mention two other ones because there's so many things that, so many breakout sessions and whatnot. But the two ones that I want to mention are the ones that I think everybody wants to know and attend. The view from the top. So these are the tower guys, right? So it's Stephen Marshall from American Tower. It's Jeff Stoops from SBA. It's Jay Brown from Crown. It was Alex Gelman from Vertical Bridge. And then David Weissman from Insight Wireless. So these are obviously the tower folks. So key points from them was, T-Mobile and their 600 megahertz build out is shaking the tree. A lot of talk about the FirstNet build, and then about AT&T. And Jeff Stoops says, this is going to be a good thing for us in this tower world for many, many years to come. He talked about the fact that it's not only going to be an urban build out, but it's also going to be a rural build out. And obviously the rural build is going to be 100% macros, obviously, right? And they talked about how the 5G will require new radios and new antennas, which is more work for the folks in this industry. Jay Brown, he made a quote that people are still talking about, which is, on our worst day, the tower people, in our worst day, we have good growth. So that's been getting a little play out there in all the blogs and stuff like that, but it is truth. He talked about 5G being a game changer. So the carrier's ARPU has been down 13% due to the unlimited plans. So they're looking for ways to increase ARPU, and obviously 5G will do that with IoT and connected cars and smart cities, etc. Jay also talked about how Crown has built 20,000 small cells and how they have 25,000 more under contract. Other things that were talked about by this group was how small cells are complementary to macros instead of mutually exclusive, and the fact that one of the quotes was that no macro has ever been taken down in favor of a small cell. Anyway, so that was a great session, very, very positive for the tower world folks. The last one I want to mention is another favorite of mine and others. I call it the money folks, right? So this is Clayton Funk from MVP Capital. He brings the money folks in, not tower folks or not carrier folks, but the money folks, like Jennifer Fritchie from Wells Fargo and Rick Prentice from Raymond James, and they kind of talk about what's going on from the money side of the world. So the bullets from that are the tower company stocks are still doing well. Sprint is actually building some macros, which, wow, we haven't heard that in a while, right? The 600 megahertz auction, T-Mobile bought 45% of the available spectrum. Very, very interesting, since they're not the largest carrier, but man, they had the largest swath. And then Rick Prentice talked about something that you may have heard me talk about, because I've heard it many, many times before, which is other countries are 5+ years behind where we are in the United States, and we've known what happens in the past 5 years here in the United States with the build out in the past 5 years, whatever. It's going crazy. So the point is, we've seen this movie before, we know how it ends, and so we can extrapolate what's going to be happening in other less developed countries. And what Rick's quote was, 20+ years ago, other countries were 5+ years behind the United States. And here we are 20+ years later, and they're still 5+ years behind the United States. The point being, good place internationally to invest some money. Also talked about carriers moving to C-RAN, located in data centers. And then actually I asked a question to this group, which is, hey, we've all heard about the carriers kind of doing this with the tower companies, basically saying, hey man, you guys need to lower our lease rent, you're killing us. And kind of how is that going? And I kind of asked for an update, and Rick Prentice basically said, hey Paul, look, there's 130 to 140,000 towers in the United States, and 96,000 of those towers are owned by the big three, right? American Tower, Crown Castle, SBA. So whatever percentage that is, 70-ish percentage points or so are all the big three. His point being that he doesn't think that the carriers have a lot of room to negotiate with three companies that almost say have a monopoly, but they have a good chunk of the towers. So anyways, but of course you read your daily blogs and whatnot, and there's still talk about the carriers pushing back. So anyways, we'll see, stand by for, to see what happens with that one. So anyways, you guys, that's it. It was a great meeting for me. Probably the next one will be CTIA in San Francisco. I'm assuming they're going to be doing their Tower and Small Cell Summit again at CTIA in San Francisco in September. So hopefully I will see you there, but hopefully this was helpful for you if you weren't able to make it. My goal is to make you feel like you were. Thanks so much. Any questions from us, you know how to get a hold of us. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.